Hello all, welcome to Airtime Paintball, where people come to find out all the information they need to get great values on paintball stuff. Today, we're going to take a look at the Planet Eclipse LV16. Fresh out new gun, lots of people are waiting for this thing. Let's have a look at it. LV16. This gun has just come out this year, was announced at Paintball Extravaganza. I mentioned this in my Geo4 video. Geo4 and this were announced at the same time this past winter. And in case you didn't see the other video, instead of the big rollout they were hoping for due to COVID-19 pandemic, impact on supply and manufacturing capacity, etc., they really they've been behind with getting these out, which is making a lot of people sad because lots of people are waiting for them. These guns, 1.6, really just started shipping in small quantities, like in the last, week and a half or 2 weeks or so. And I think most people would agree it's been worth the wait. Very cool gun. So if you're not familiar with the LV platform, we can go back to really a pretty long time, right? Over 10 years to the original Planet Eclipse Egos. The Egos are all stacked tube poppet guns like this one is. This is quite a bit different, and we're going to talk about that. But and people love Egos. They're light and compact. They are super reliable. They now in these days of 10.5 ramping, we don't care so much about the speed. But back then, people were playing uncapped semi in tournaments, and they're super fast. And some of them are among the fastest guns ever made. Like the Ego 8 is especially famous for being super fast. But I mean, they're great guns. Not my personal cup of tea because I prefer kind of a softer shot. I've been mostly kind of a spool guy, and I mentioned that on purpose because, as popular as the Egos were and still are, really. A lot of people kind of had an attitude about them, like, and I'm not talking about the fans of them, plenty of people like them the way they are, but there's a lot of people who are like, man, those Egos are so cool. They're light and compact and they're great ergonomically and they're super reliable and they look awesome. I wish they weren't so loud and just that feel, that stack tube pop it feel, not a fan. I wish they could do something about that. Well, the LV series is Planet Eclipse's answer to that question. What they've done is this is starting with the LV1, there's a 1 and then a 1.1 where they made some changes to it. They increased the internal volume, etc. But the operating principle is the same for all of them. Then there was a 1.5 and here's the 1.6, and I'm going to get to the differences in a second here. But the idea here is they wanted to make a stack tube poppet that would please Ego shooters everywhere, but also bring in the people who are like, man, I would shoot one of those Egos if they weren't so loud. Or snappy feeling. And here we have the LVs. And man, did they ever succeed. The design of this is really, really interesting. We're going to take a look here real quick at a shooting video, and you're going to be able to see how much softer these are. I mean, to shoot them back to back with an old style Ego, or really any other stack tube poppet, G6R, E-Tech 5, which is, that's a lower end gun compared to this, but still a stack tube poppet, or really any of them. It's a huge difference, fundamental difference with how soft and smooth these are compared to those guns. So let's take a look at shooting it, and we're going to have a little discussion about why it works the way it works, and then come back. Hello all, here we are shooting the LV16. This is completely out of the box setup. I haven't touched any tuning parameters or anything like that, and I'm going to talk about that in the video when we go back inside. I wanted to give you guys sort of my impressions of what it's like to shoot, and just kind of let you eyeball it. So here we go. Now, I'm sure you can hear, well, hopefully you can hear anyway, in the recording, the shot of this gun is hugely softer. You can't see the feel, but the sound for sure. And I can tell you also the feel compared to other stack tube poppets, and that's because of the inherent design with the lever valve. So what happens in here is that instead of the rammer just whacking the poppet and opening it versus a spring or even versus air pressure, right? Where it just gets whacked and it opens, and then the pressure acting the other direction, whether it's a spring or air, depending on the gun, closes it. All of those guns have kind of a louder, quicker, poppier, snappier shot than this. And that's because of that rapid opening nature. Now, the interesting thing about LV's lever valve is that instead of the rammer just whacking the end of the valve, there's a curved, well, it's curved this way. How can I do this? It's curved like this, sort of, in there, like a cam shape. And what happens is instead of the rammer whacking the back of the valve, it hits that lever. And as the lever moves forward to act on the poppet, that curved profile is, or I should say the rammer acts on that curved profile to control the acceleration of the valve. Instead of it just being straight like the poppet's this way and the ram is this way and bang, it hits that lever and the lever rolls forward and the rammer acts on that, and that's what gives it its unique shot. It's really simple, and it's a really interesting and awesome design that they can make such a seemingly small change to, I mean, there's other things in here too technology-wise, but that specific thing is a relatively small change to the design of poppet guns, and yet it makes such a huge difference in the way the gun shoots. Super interesting. But anyway, let's just polish this off. You can check it out. Oh, I always do this. Let's get closer. There's a super soft shot. Really nice to shoot. I really enjoy this. This is the first time I've had an LV, and I've shot several hoppers through it now to prepare for the review, and it's just a ball to shoot. It's really great. More in there maybe. That's it. LV16 shooting video. Yeah, so pretty amazing, right? I mean, if you have heard a stack tube poppet gun shoot, and almost everyone has, I've got one we're going to look at here in a minute. I didn't have it when I made that video, and I ran out of air and paint, and I'm kind of on lockdown at home because of the pandemic, so I couldn't get more and shoot the other stack tube poppet for comparison. But it's so soft and smooth compared to that. It's hard to even believe that the designs are related. So that cam-shaped lever that the rammer acts on that I talked about in there is the entire difference, right? They're able to control the speed with which the rammer acts upon the valve, and also how long it's open, right? And we call that dwell. In a gun like this, it would be mechanical dwell, because that rammer is physically forcing the valve open, and then spring pressure pushing back against it closes it. And the ability to control those parameters is everything about why these are so much softer and smoother in comparison to a traditional style stack tube poppet. So a few things about this gun that are, like I always do, right? I'm going to kind of talk about the good, and then what for me is the not so good, and there's not much about this that's not good. I mean, it's super cool. And talk about if you should buy one. So the good, of course, the shot quality, right? If you're someone who wants a stack tube poppet gun, like I said, but you wish they were softer, this is the only game in town. They are super fun to shoot, very reliable, very accurate. And one thing that's interesting about these is this gun may be the most tunable marker currently available. It has just a laundry list of tunability to it. If you look inside this grip frame, or I should say, inside the grip frame, under the grips here, you can see there's these two adjustments. This is a forward and back bolt speed adjustment. It's similar to an SFR function on a CS1 style IV core gun. And these adjustments, they will control how fast the bolt, or I should say, how fast the rammer moves forward and how fast it returns. And you can control those independently for just like an almost endless amount of tuning as far as how you want the feel versus how fast you want the gun to cycle, etc. And Planet Eclipse actually has online, I don't remember if it's in the manual or a separate thing, but you can find a tuning guide to what the adjustments mean and how they affect how the gun shoots. That's something that, as far as I know, no other gun has that. But we're not even done with that. The trigger, like older Geos and of course previous LVs, We have in there a micro switch, which is what we're traditionally used to activating, right? We pull the trigger, it activates a micro switch, and that's what trips the solenoid, and off we go to the races shooting the ball. Well, there's a second, completely separate triggering mechanism in here called opto. And just like it sounds, it's an optical brake beam trigger system, which is also tunable for how it operates. And you can choose to use either the micro switch or the optical trigger, which is another amazing thing when it comes to your ability to customize the feel and how it shoots. And I always mention this, right? None of these things, well, let me back up a little bit. I was going to say none of these things are performance related. Well, the adjustments for forward and back bolt speed can be performance impacting, depending on how their adjustment. When I say performance, you can get some efficiency changes by adjusting those in certain ways. And if you are concerned with how fast the gun is cycling, that is also a performance parameter. Not one that a lot of us are concerned about these days, but it is a performance parameter, and that's adjustable also with the forward and back bolt speed. The trigger options don't affect the ability of the gun to shoot a paintball. So I'm not going to call that a performance change, but it is a very cool, customizable thing that allows you to change the way the gun feels when it shoots. Super cool. We can see here, this gun maintains the AT pipe, and we're gonna talk about sort of the impact this has on the gun in a moment. Versus, of course, the older gun like a G-Tex, or I shouldn't say older, but less expensive guns, macro line, no macro line. The air routes through here, through the grip and across to the reg. These are very reliable. They're proven on a bunch of models, and they've been on LVs since the original one. One of the criticisms of these that some people have is, in fact, I always do this, right? Let's back up a little bit. Really, the reason for this existing is that the solenoids in the LVs up till 1.5 are no longer manufactured, and while they are still available from Planet Eclipse, as of course, because they're not being manufactured anymore, eventually the supply of those is going to dry up. And furthermore, they're not serviceable, right? So what Planet Eclipse has done, because there's such a big fan base of these guns, is they revised the grip frame, and also whatever else needed revision as far as electronics. I don't know the technical details, but they did what they had to do in order to put a serviceable and currently available SMC solenoid in this gun instead of the old, no longer manufactured solenoid. However, they didn't change anything else about it except for that. It is exactly the same gun as a 1.5. There are no additional changes. And one of the criticisms that people had is like, well, I mean, if you're going to go to all this trouble, you know, it's 2020, and we really still have an AT pipe here. We can't make it to a gas-through model with no pipe. And I mean, that's a legitimate criticism. But in the current economic climate, Planet Eclipse felt that it was more important to get a revised model, and this is why it's a 1.6 versus a 1.5, right, and not like an LV2 or something like that, right? It's meant to be and it's an important but a relatively minor revision. It doesn't change the way the gun shoots. No performance differences. We still have the AT pipe. Nothing else is different. It's just an update so that if people want to buy a new LV, they have an upgraded component in there, which is an important and expensive component. So that's clearly a positive thing to have taken that step. But it's a negative thing that they went that way if what you were really hoping for was a completely revamped brand new gun. And that may be coming at some point, but it's not announced yet. People badger Jack Wood, he's the lead engineer at Planet Eclipse. People badger him online endlessly about when is there going to be an LV2, and there's no indication that there's an LV2, coming out anytime soon. So I wouldn't hold your breath. But for this gun on its own, not worrying about the non-existent LV2, that's a great upgrade, a great revision, and the gun as a whole is a really nice gun as delivered. We have comes with the FL barrel kit, and you can see the carbon fiber tip. They only come with one back, but other backs are available. It's a good quality barrel. There's really nothing about this gun that is substandard or you wish they had done differently, except of course for these revisions that I've mentioned. So the good, right? your classic Planet Eclipse build quality. It's built great, very, very reliable, and the feel for a stack tube poppet is like nothing else. I mean, it's an amazing gun in that regard. Good barrel. The grips are the same grips from previous LVs. They feel good. They come up. They're on and off easily. Screws attached to the main grip, and then in the front it just pulls off once you remove the AT pipe. Easy to get to. Yeah, so pretty standard there. A few things in the not so good category. Oh, I'm going to mention one thing that I actually think is good and kind of not so good at the same time. I know that you can never see the screen when I hold it up to the camera. We can see the screen in the back. It's that same screen that I'm always criticizing for not being great, and it's no better here. However, I mentioned in a previous video that CS2s and Go4s have a magnifying lens over this that is an attempt to make it look bigger, and it does kind of make it look bigger, but it makes it weird to look at because the angle of it makes it so that you kind of have to go like this in order to see everything that's on the screen. And I mentioned before, I don't think it's an improvement. Well, thankfully they left that off of this one, and like I said, I think it's an improvement. It is a very easy to read screen. It's just a little bit less than what we expect in a $1,300 gun, which is what these are, $1,295 retail. For me in 2020, you know, it's less than what we're really demanding out of our high-end guns. But like I said, it is just meant to be a revision to fix that solenoid, that lurking solenoid issue of not being serviceable and you can't buy them, or the manufacturer's not making them anymore, so supplies will be dwindling for that old solenoid, and we've fixed that with this. So it's not really fair to expect the screen to change, but nonetheless, it's there, so I'm going to talk about it. Maintenance on this gun is very easy. I don't know if this is loose enough for me. Oh yeah, I can get it off. The bolt just comes out by pulling this pin up, slide the bolt out. It's a Delrin bolt. It's a Delrin bolt. A little bit of the included Planet Eclipse lube on there is all you need. And then we have the rammer inside here. The little cap threads off. And if I tap that, we have the rammer. And same thing, Planet Eclipse includes the proper lube to use on these. I would recommend you use what they put in there. They've done that for a reason. This particular one, you can see, hopefully, says heavy on it. And I'm going to hope that focused. And if it didn't, it says heavy on it. There's a light rammer available, which changes the feel and other characteristics of the way the gun shoots. And that would be something that one would change in conjunction with the forward and back speed of the rammer to achieve a different feel in the way the gun operates. And to put it back together, you just stick it back in there and screw the cap back on. That's all there is to routine maintenance. And when you put the bolt back in, like any gun of this style, you want to make sure that the bolt pin goes all the way down into the notch in the rammer so that they're engaged, so that when the rammer moves, the bolt moves. Okay, so I mentioned a couple things in the not so good. I mentioned that screen. One thing that I don't like about these guns personally is the ergonomics. And the AT pipe, in theory, doesn't bother me. I'm not like a big, I have to have a free foregrip with nothing in the way guy. I mean, AT pipes on other guns don't bother me much. But there's something about this one that no matter how I grab it, my fingers are always running into it. Like I never really know if I put one finger in there or hold it loosely with my thumb, or it just doesn't fit me. And that's a personal thing. I'm sure plenty of people don't care. It doesn't affect them. But I wanted to point it out, as my son just got this 160R for his birthday, and you can see, of course, it has the AT pipe as well, but for whatever reason, this one, I never notice it. You just grip it, I never even notice it's there. I've played with it. Actually, I haven't played with this one, but I played with other 160Rs. I never even noticed the AT pipe, and it's perfectly comfortable. And the reason for that is this width here in this gun is much higher than the 160R, and it reduces the amount of space in here. So if you have big mitts, or you're super picky about ergonomics, you're going to want to hold one of these before you buy it, because $1,300 is a lot to spend on a gun that turns out to be not comfortable for you. Lots of people love these. I never read about people complaining about that aspect of it. This is not a huge issue. This is just my personal impression of the way this is laid out. Another thing about this gun that I don't personally like ergonomically is that the size of the rear grip, to me, is huge. I have big hands with long fingers, and I feel like a child holding this gun. I feel like my hand doesn't get all the way around it. And to be fair, I feel almost the same way with the 160R. Although again, this is one of those situations where when I'm like at my desk or at my bench and I'm like fiddling and I'm wondering like, oh, what do I think about this? Does this fit like I did when I first started planning this video? I feel like this grip is kind of big, and I wish they were a little bit narrower. But playing with it, I never notice it when I'm playing. I don't notice anything about the ergonomics of this gun when I'm playing. When I shoot this gun, I constantly notice it. My hand is not comfortable on the grip. I can't get my fingers in this foregrip the right way, or it just doesn't fit me. And I only mention that because there aren't many of these around, and it's not easy to find one to try. So I'm just trying to give my impressions. Like I said, zillions of people love these things and never talk about the ergonomics. This is just my personal take. The other negative for these, for me, and this goes for all LVs, and it's not really that it's a defect or whatever, it's just like a byproduct of how it is. For me, the whole point of a stack tube poppet is that it is compact and light, and it feels very like, I don't know how to say it, not twitchy, but just like very light and quick in your hands, right? And these to me don't feel that way. There's of course more going on with the lever valve. The bodies are bigger than a lot of stack tube poppet guns, and I don't know if that's the entire reason or if it's just kind of the way the platform is. But for me, and again, these are all just personal impressions. That's what I'm trying to give you as my opinions, so that when you think about it, you can decide like, oh, that's crap. I couldn't possibly care less about that, or I've shot that gun and I don't think that's right at all. You know, these are just my impressions that I'm giving you. So, it's like every dimension of it, including the weight of it, doesn't feel that way to me. Like the grip feels bulky, the body kind of looks and feels bulky. It's not particularly light, it's kind of stretched out. Like for me personally, I don't get any of the benefit of what I think of as all the good stuff about stack tube poppet guns. Now, of course, I mean, it's very reliable. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like the design, right? And I bring that up. I've got one here. Now, this is kind of an oddball gun. This is a JT Impulse, and this is not a gun that you see around every day, or that everybody has one. It just happens that it's the only other stack tube poppet gun that I happen to have here to talk about. But it is typical of a lot of these style guns. G6Rs, this one, Egos, lots of Egos, same kind of thing. And what I'm talking about is this thing feels like a stiletto blade in my hand compared to this. I mean, the grip is narrow, the foregrip is thin. I'll be honest with you, I weighed them and it's only a few ounces different. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because this is more top heavy. I don't know what the reason is, but it feels hugely lighter and quicker and faster in my hands. And to me, the feel of this is why I would want a stack tube poppet gun, right? That's kind of the point. Like I'm willing to sacrifice the fact that I prefer a soft, quiet shot in order to get a fast, light, quick feeling gun. I don't mean cycling quick, just, you know what I mean, like moving around kind of quickness. That's the type of thing I'm expecting with a stack tube poppet. And with this gun, it's not like it's huge or like ridiculously heavy or anything like that. It's just that I'm not getting what I would consider to be the benefits of it. So I guess my question for me, again, me personally, is so if it's not as like light and small and sleek, whatever, as a regular stack tube poppet, and if I'm not a guy who likes that loud sound of other kind of stack tube poppet, why? Like, what's the point, kind of? Like, if I'm going to get a big, non-small gun, I'll just buy a spool valve gun. I mean, it's true that you can tune it to be pretty efficient, but there's plenty of efficient spools out there. So for me, I guess I'm just not the target audience. So, but enough about that. These are just my impressions. On its own, I always talk about should you buy one. If the idea of a stack tube poppet gun that has the soft and like buttery feel of a spool gun or just like a gentler gun in general is appealing to you, awesome gun. If you are someone who loves to tune and tinker and experiment with the feel and the different parameters, 100%, I don't know that there's a gun I would recommend over this. I mean, it's super tunable with lots of things to mess with. And I mean, between the combination of the different ways that the trigger actuation can be adjusted and the forward and back bolt speed adjustments, when you put all that together, and of course the LPR, you can adjust the LPR as well. That's the pressure that is in the chamber that moves the rammer. I mean, I can't think of another gun that's more tunable than this, frankly, in modern times. So if that's something that you like, you should absolutely buy one of these. As far as, now I mentioned in the Geo review, one last thing here. There was kind of a double-edged sword or two-sided coin, I guess, about whether you should buy one or not, right? Because on the one hand, it's really mechanically the same as a CS1, and you can buy a CS1 for under $600. So should you spend $1,200? And we talked about that. You kind of have the same thing with this, right? Because we mentioned that the only update is a different solenoid. And no, by the way, they're not retrofittable. You can't put the new one in the old guns. So with that being the only revision, you're not getting performance difference at all, right? And you can buy, like for example, you can buy an LV11 right now for, you know, I don't know, 600 and under. And I think that once these are widely available, those numbers are going to go down. You can even get a 1.5 now for, I'm going to say about maybe 800. That number is definitely going to come down once these are widely available. And you're going to get literally the same performance and all the same adjustability. So on the face of it, like, why would you want to spend $1,300 when you can spend, I don't know what, 600 or 700 and get the same gun, right? Well, there's the same thing. Not everybody wants to buy an older used gun. And also there's the issue of that solenoid. So if that's important to you, now Planet Eclipse is not about to run out of them anytime soon, so you can buy one. They're pretty pricey. I think they're about $150. But, I mean, this is $1,300, so you have to weigh what the priciness is, right? If you can buy an LV once these are available, if you can buy, say, a 1.1 for $500, you could buy 2 replacement solenoids and have a total of 800 in it. You're still 500 under this, and you're shooting what is essentially the same gun. So, you know, that's a decision for you guys. If you want a brand new gun, a brand new top-end gun, and you like stack tube poppets in general, or you like the idea of a stack tube poppet that's softer and quieter, absolutely, no reason to not buy this. It's awesome, right? If you have that budget, and that's a great benefit to get, to have the modern, rebuildable, and widely available solenoid. If you don't have the budget for that, but you still love the idea of all that tunability and the design of the LV with the lever valve and such and the soft feel, but you don't have that kind of budget, there's absolutely nothing wrong. This idea, you read online sometimes, people are like, you know, don't buy, I mean, not a lot of people, because a huge amount of people are fans of all this whole platform, but you read people in there like, don't buy one of these orphaned LV11s or whatever because the solenoids are gone and it's a big disaster and it's going to crap out on you and be a nightmare. That's not true. Planet Eclipse is in no danger of running out of replacement solenoids, A. B, they're very reliable and don't need to be replaced super often. And C, even though they're $150, you know, I keep saying you can buy these older guns for so much cheaper than a new one that, you know, you can definitely find your way to an economical way to own one of these and not have to worry about the solenoid. I think buying 2 of them, I just made that as an example, I think that's overkill. I think if you wanted to be super cautious and make sure your gun is not down on you, you could spend that money, that middle, like, I don't know, right now I'm maybe 600 on an LV11 or 5, I think in the 5s even you see them, and buy 1 spare solenoid for $150 and keep it. And you have, you know, many hundreds, $500, $600 less into it than this, and you're shooting what is essentially the same gun. So that's kind of my take on that whole thing. But let me know what you think about it. This thing, I don't know why I keep doing that. I'm not going to throw it at you, I promise. I really enjoy shooting it for the shot quality, and it's just kind of interesting to me how tunable it is, and it's really neat that it's a stack tube poppet, but it's not a hand cannon like some other ones are. Oh, by the way, I mentioned this JT Impulse. This thing is an absolute cannon when you shoot it. I mean, we talk about snappy shots. There's no such thing as a snappier shot than this. I mean, it sounds like a 30-30 when you shoot it. It's unbelievably loud, and it has it's just a super crack to it. It's really snappy. It's really fun to shoot, but I mean, it's not on the same planet as this. This is so soft and quiet, and I really enjoy it from that perspective, like I mentioned, especially being a spool guy. But, I mentioned it's not really, frankly, it is not for me. I don't prefer the ergos. I don't quite get the point. If I want a softer shooting gun, I'm just going to shoot a spool, frankly, because I don't get what I believe are my favorite benefits of shooting a stack tube poppet like this JT, as far as being small and quick and fast and whatever. What do you think? Put some comments below. As I always mention, I would really appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe. I don't mention it till the end because I just don't want to be one of those guys that just starts off the video with beating everybody up about, subscribe to my channel. Maybe I should put a graphic in there or something, I don't know. But it really helps folks when they search for information to move the videos up in the search results, so that if someone's looking for an unbiased review of an LV-16 or a Geo or some older, cheaper guns or whatever, they have a shot at finding it. So if you could do that, that'd be great. Let me know what you think. LV-16. I want to say coming soon to a pro shop near you, but I mean, they're coming pretty slow. You can find them if you get on the phone and get on the interwebs and start calling paintball stores. That's what I did with this, by the way. It took me 45 minutes of calling paintball stores to find one that had one coming in that wasn't sold yet, and I bought it. So you can find them if you put some effort in, but it's going to be a little while. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.